Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Apples and Geno's Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Nate Groot-Niblink. I'm the creator of Apples and Geno's, originator of the Zero-G draft strategy. And in this podcast, I have a couple of Apples and Geno's legends on board to mock draft with some listeners. Let's get it. And of course, I have your friend and my best friend, Blake Creamer, here with me. Blake, how are we feeling tonight?
Feeling great. I was just saying to you guys here, like, we're mocking already. It's July 12th. What the hell is going on? I don't know where I'm at, but it feels good. And you know what? Just looking at the screen right here, the amount of raw animal magnetism staring back at me, unbelievable. I'm going to have to push through that, because, I got to get a good team here. But nice to see you, gents.
Absolutely. Well, bringing that magnetism is Mr. 18 Skaters himself, Mark Barber, here as well. Mark, are you ready to get sniped by some listeners here tonight?
Oh, I'm sure it's going to happen a couple of times. I'm completely disoriented. I'm not used to drafting in the middle of July, so someone's going to take a couple good ones right out from under me, I'm sure.
See, I feel like you should be at an advantage over me and Blake. You have your projections ready to go, as you mentioned on the episode you did with Blake, whatever it was, a week or two ago now. Yeah, I feel like you should have the leg up. So if you don't have the best team, I really feel like it's a failure on your part, Mark.
All right, well, full disclosure, I've also preloaded my ranked players, so...
Oh, my God.
Perhaps not totally disoriented.
It's over. I'm auto-drafting. That's it.
All right, well, we should let everybody know what exactly we are doing here tonight. We are going to be drafting according to the Cacuffle point system, which I have conveniently loaded to put up on the screen here. If you're watching live on YouTube, which you really should be. If you're not, you should head over to YouTube, click that bell and get notified whenever we do go live so that you can be a part of these live streams. We got 30 people watching already, and I'm sure more to come. We've got goals worth 4.5 in this setup, assists worth 3, shots on goal 0.5, blocks worth 0.5 as well, hits are worth 0.25, and shorthanded points are worth 2 points. On the goalie side, even though none of us three really care about that, 3 points for a win, 0.3 for a save, minus 1.5 for a goal against, and 3 points for a shutout. All right, let's see what's happening in the chat. We got Nate Dogg Gaming saying Battle of McDavid and McKinnon for first pick. That could be interesting. We've got Ryan saying cheers. Cheers to you as well, Ryan. And Jackson, who's in this draft, saying that bell sound is my alarm clock. That's a good point. I should probably turn that off. Otherwise, people are going to be hearing that in their sleep tonight after watching this.
Can we black Jackson out because he's drafting against us? For God's sake!
Yeah, we should be able to. We should be able to do that, shouldn't we? Anyway, Blake, let's talk about McDavid versus McKinnon for a second. Like, is there any question in your mind about McDavid versus McKinnon?
I mean, you can make the argument, but why? I don't know. Like in redraft, like it just. To me, McDavid is a better player. Like, I mean, he just is. McKinnon is amazing, and he just had a great season. But I really feel like that's maybe his high point, right? Where McDavid maybe can go a bit higher. I don't know. It's just, to me, it's McDavid all day. I'm not even questioning it.
Fair enough. All right, we're about to get loaded in here. So I've got myself here at the 3 spot. Blake is over in the 6 spot, and Mark is down at the other end in the 10 spot. So we are a little bit spread out across the board here, which should be good. I think that we should be just about ready to go. I set it for 9:05, so we'd have a few minutes here to get us started off. We're up to 44 people watching, which is pretty terrific. Welcome on in if you haven't already. Like and subscribe. That'd be great. We're going to be doing tons and tons of mock drafting business all throughout the off season. So if mock drafting is your jam, you should definitely get into that. McDavid does go 1 as expected. We'll see who goes number 2 here. I don't think I'm going to rock the boat too much, unfortunately. I'd love to throw a controversial pick out there just off the top, but McKinnon goes number 2. I will take Matthews number 3 and just kind of stay chalk in the early going. Does that seem like the top 3 to you, Mark, in this setup?
I think I might have been tempted to take Kucherov there instead of Austin Matthews.
That's fair.
Especially given the right wing, but it's pretty tough to choose between the two.
Yeah,
and yeah, McDavid and McKinnon I do have ranked 1-2 for sure.
Yeah. Do you think that Stamkos coming off that lethal Tampa power play, like obviously Gensel's a terrific player, but maybe the fit's not exactly the same. Do you have any concern there that Kucherov might not be just as incredibly efficient as he was last year?
I'm kind of optimistic that he might be even better. I think Gensel's going to have a pretty huge year, and Stamkos is sort of starting to trail off just a little bit, maybe. So I'm not too worried about Kucherov myself.
Fair enough. Draisaitl goes at 5. Blake, you're on the clock. What's the pick?
Bang. I think I got to go with the pasta man. All right. He's a cooking something up. Yeah, I feel like this is a pretty safe pick. I mean, but when is the floor going to fall out in Boston? I mean, it's got to happen at some point here.
Yeah, that's an interesting question for sure. I mean, they went and got Lindholm, which should be some sort of an upgrade at center after struggling through last year with Zaka and Coyle as really their only centers of note. And Zaka, wasn't really a center before then. After Blake takes Pasternak at number 6, we get Rantanen and Panarin coming off the board. Panarin at 8 is a little risky for me. We kind of talked through it a bit last year while it was happening, Blake, but Panarin having this one terrific season, do you feel like this is the new norm and we should just expect him to have this kind of shot production, this kind of goal production now, or do you think that we might get a bit of a regression back to where he was before?
I mean, it was obviously a new coach there and a new situation, so we can chalk it up a little bit to that, but it's a complete change in his game style. So I'm not comfortable, certainly not at 8, right? I mean, Panarin's going to be great for fantasy, especially in this format, but I'm not counting on him getting all those shots and goals again.
That's fair. All right. Panarin goes at 8. Tkachuk goes at 9. Mark, you took Jack Hughes at 10. Tell us, was there any conversation there? I know you've been a Hughes supporter from as long as I can remember.
Well, obviously a little bit concerned about the injury that he's got. I'm just going to sort of assume that he's going to come back fine. Otherwise, dual eligible. I would really like to get a right wing there if I can, but there's no one that's an appropriate. Oh, I got another pick coming up here. No one else that was at right wing that I thought was appropriate there. So I'll go for dual eligible. New Jersey's got the good schedule. And as long as Jack Hughes' injury is behind him, I'm not too worried about it.
Fair enough. At the turn, Cale Makar goes 111. Kirill Kaprizov and Elias Pettersson go to Harry the Hat on the 12 spot. And the Makar drafter gets Forsberg on the way back. And Mark, you come back with Matt Tkachuk at the 2-3. That's got to feel good.
I do like that. Dual eligible again. This time I get the right wing. And I was really huge on Tkachuk last year. Obviously, he didn't quite live up to it, but I'm happy to take him in the second round here.
All right. Good teams right off the bat. First off, Mark, Hughes and Tkachuk. I love that start. I wanted to get Hughes actually at 6, but I don't know. Again, like your concerns were my concerns. That seems a little early, but I think he can absolutely smash that 10 spot. And then Tkachuk in the second round. Like this guy, he had a horrible start to the season last year. People forget about that. Okay, I'm on the clock here, and I got to get the biz. You know what? I'm doing it. Roman Josi, book it. All right. We're dropping the hammer. We got Pasta. We got Josi, and we're loving life. Josi's going to be awesome this year. I would think that Nashville's power play is going to be a little bit better than it was last year. What do you boys think?
Yeah, it's hard to say, to be honest. It was pretty good. It was better than anybody thought last year. Sometimes there's always an element of unpredictability when these things happen. You get some players who absolutely take off in a new setting. You get some players who it just does not work or sometimes for the entire season, oftentimes for a long period of the season. I'm back up on the clock here, and I'm going to make a bit of a stand here on a guy that I'm super high on after doing his projection earlier this week. I'm going to take Rasmus Dahlin at 210. Yeah, I think that Dahlin was terrific last year despite the terrible situation in Buffalo. And I think that if Lindy Ruff brings to the Sabres what he brought to the Devils his first year there, that we could really be looking at an offensive explosion, and that could really go well. Obviously, in this format, you do get some good weight for the shots and the hits and the blocks that Dahlin provides as well. We're getting through it here. I just want to recap. So we mentioned that Mark had Tkachuk. I did get a comment already. It's Tkachuk. Thanks for
Nate,
that.
get yourself sorted out for the love of Pete.
I know. After that, it was JT Miller, Willie Nylander, Sam Reinhart, Blakey took Roman Josi there, Mitch Marner, Sidney Crosby. I took Dahlin. Right after that, Evan Bouchard. Jake Gensel goes at the 212, and we'll see what A5 is thinking for the 3-1 here. We do have a bunch of comments coming through. Toronto Dave's in here. Party of the Moon Tower wants to get an auction mock going. That could be interesting.
I don't hate that.
Jackson said he almost took Hughes as well, one pick in front of Mark, so that could have been interesting. I am not even going to try to say that name, but they got Brad last year, Panarin, with the second pick of the 6th round. That's pretty sweet. And Matt DE says, my money's on Blake to take the first goalie. I think that would be the betting favorite for sure.
Right. Well, I'm catching a lot of strays in the comments here, and I'll tell you what, you're all on notice. All right, this is serious business.
I just noticed that I'm gonna time out.
Nate,
there you go.
What the heck?
So
what was that you were just saying, Nate? I don't remember.
So because I have the power, I'm going to pause the draft and revert that pick.
Please do. All right. Oh, my God.
Because otherwise, yeah.
We're editing that in post.
Yeah, the screenshot's going to look too bad. I can't have that on my conscience. Like, I won't be able to sleep tonight if I time out and take hell of a look.
Oh, man. I love that.
So I apologize for the delay. That's what happens when I start reading comments and not paying attention to my pick. In the interest of time, I'm just going to take whoever the top wingers are here. Oh, this is gross already. Wow. That's really rough. I guess I'm a Steven Stamkos fan now. So let's go with that. I think if I put him in my queue and restart the draft, it should take him... no, it's giving me some time. I could take him now. Okay. Sorry, folks. We're back live. Yeah, I've got Stamkos now. So, yeah, I'm a Nashville fan now, too, Blake. That power play is going to be incredible. I can't wait to see it go in action. It's going to be absolutely insane.
Exactly. Yeah, you bet your sweet bippy it is, buddy. Oh, my God. We should have kept that pick there. That would have been so epic. All right. You know what? I'm going to... I like getting wingers early here. I'm happy with Josi there. Pasta. I'm going to go with another winger. I'm going to go with Jason Robertson. I think there's a bounce back here. Maybe not huge like what we once thought, but I think 90 points for J-Rob is in the wheelhouse, especially if a certain someone gets put on his line. Oh, my God.
Yep, that could be interesting. I assume you're alluding to superstar in the making, Wyatt Johnson.
Yeah, actually, it was, I can't even think of a Dallas player's name, but it was Duchesne. Oh, yeah. If he gets to play with Duchesne, buddy, it's blast off time for J-Rob. Book it.
All right. So, yeah, just recapping the third round till now. Hyman goes 3-1, Barkov 3-2. I took Stamkos at 3-3 after timing out and getting Hellebuck. Hedman goes 3-4, Quinn Hughes 3-5, Blakey took Robertson at 3-6, Kempe went 3-7, Aho 3-8, Jackson's on the clock, and Mark, you're right behind. Are you still thinking about structural things at this point? Are you in a spot where you feel you can just go best player available? What are you looking at here?
Well, now I'm on the clock and I can show you exactly what I'm thinking. I still always like to prioritize wingers early, but the top winger I've got, I feel like he's going to come back around. And so as much as I hate to do a center only, I'm going to go for Jack Eichel here and hope that Vegas is not going to suffer from the loss of Marchessault, and yeah, Eichel will hopefully be really good again this year.
I like how you said that man's name, Marcius. So that's sweet. That just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, I would have probably actually considered Eichel at the 3-3 if I hadn't taken Matthews. And yeah, I do feel like it's really rough to take two center onlys. In this format, we are just kind of going with the Kickoffle format, so we do have two skater slots. Outside of just the two center, two left wing, two right wing, 4D. There's two skater slots as well. I think that was an auto pick, wasn't it? Hellebuck comes off 311. Either way, we've got our first. We've got our first goalie on the board, and it's not coming back this time. But yeah, we're in a spot now. So Point was the pick right before you, Mark. Then you took Eichel. Hellebuck goes 311. Adam Fox goes 312. And we'll come into the fourth here. This area of the draft, I feel like honestly in the early third all the way through like, I don't know, probably like the mid fourth is just this massive tier right now. You know, things will change. We'll get some camp buzz or things like that. We'll hear that Jason Robertson reports in the best shape of his life, and people will get excited about that. Things will change, but I do think that for myself anyway, just the way that I'm viewing it, and yeah, I haven't done all my projections, so maybe I'll have a few targets that kind of arise out of here, but I do feel like it's kind of just a massive tier. After the Fox pick at 312, we get Shesterkin, the second goalie, at 4-1. We get Bratt at 4-2, and Mark, you went Timo Meier at 4-3. Talk to me about that one.
Yeah, that one might be a little bit of an eyebrow raiser for some people, and I'm not totally confident about it myself, but you know, there's going to be a lot of picks that go between now and my next pick, and so I'm not totally sure that Timo Meier will survive all of those picks. He still shows up well in my projections. Obviously, he got off to a really slow start last year, but he was pretty good down the stretch. And so, again, you got the dual eligibility, which I love. Plays in New Jersey, a team with a good schedule again this year, and so I'll take him there. I don't know. It's definitely possible he would have been there for my next pick, but you know, I've got him, so I'm happy with it.
Fair enough. Blake, you took the man. Talk to me about him.
Yeah, I'm stoked. Tage in the fourth. This guy to me is still the player that we think he is, right? And I saw you had a projection for him. I like the projection. I think it's conservative. I'll probably have a conservative one for him too, just because of what happened last year. But I think we know the ceiling for Tage. Like, we're looking at 90 points. This guy is a potential 50-goal scorer if things go right. So I just love the upside there. And in the fourth round, to me, it's a slam dunk. He's a metrics guy. We love that. And they got the new coach, so hopefully, you know, he'll get out there for more than 17 minutes a game.
Can't argue with that. I'm back on the clock here, determined to avoid timing out. I'm considering making a stand on Zach Werenski here. I kind of feel like I don't have to. It does feel like the top of a tier. I'm just going to play it safe with Travis Konechny. I timed out again. I did it again. This unbelievable
is definitely being screenshotted, Nate. I swear. This is incredible.
No, nobody saw that. Yeah. Nobody saw that. Nothing has happened. Nothing has happened. Konechny was the pick all along. Things are resuming. Back to your regularly scheduled programming. All right. Yep, we're back. Thank you.
I love that it auto-picked two goalies. That's amazing. It's trying to tell you something, Nate.
It's trying to tell me something. I should have put the timer longer in all honesty. That's on me. I wonder if I can change it in. I can change it in.
Oh my.
In the middle of the draft. Look at this. Clearly, I am not up to the I'm not up to the 30-second timer, so I have to do something about it. Party at the Moon Tower's chirping me. He says Nate is a click machine. Yeah, that's I can't say anything at this point. I'm letting everybody down. I do want to recap for anybody who's listening. So Meier was your pick, Mark, at 4-3. Then it was Dobson and Uyghur, back-to-back D. Verhaeghe at the 4-6. Blakey took Thompson at the 4-7. Stützle 4-8. Keller 4-9. Konechny 4-10. Kyle Connor at 4-11. And Svechnikov goes at the 4-12. and that is one I was thinking about as well. All right, I got to figure out who I'm picking here. I might go back to the D, but I also feel like there's a chance that everything just comes all the way back around. Connor Bedard at 5-1, that feels like a solid upside pick.
Major value.
I do think that he's got potential to pop off into the 100-point range this year. They tried to get him some people around him this year. Whether or not those people will actually do it for them is debatable, but they definitely tried. So I'm interested in that. I am going to go with Matt Boldy here in fifth. That feels pretty good to me. Dougie Hamilton went at the 5-2.
I thought he'd come to me. That's I like that. If that's where Boldy's going this year, I'm into it. I think he's gonna have a big year, Nate.
Yeah, I've always been pretty high on Boldy. Shown it in streaks, but never. It's never really completely gone off and stayed at a high level for a long period of time. I think a lot of that is just due to the fact that in Minnesota there's Kirill Kaprizov and there's not a lot else. So it is a bit of a tough place for players to produce a ton of fantasy value, even the players that are on the top power play. Obviously, Joel Eriksson Ek doing it with all the peripherals. But Blake, you're on the clock, 5-6. Tell me what you got.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to go another D here, but I'm not seeing the value. I know that you love Werenski, Nate, and I'd love to pick up some Werenski here, but I don't know. I might just let it ride a little bit and try and pick up some value on, a little bit later in the draft. So I think because it's a mock draft, I think I want to have some fun here. I love my team so far, by the way. These are all my guys. I'm super stoked on this. These are all metrics guys. So let's have some fun. Let's go with Mr. Wyatt Johnston. Oh, yeah, in the 5th round. We're taking him. Wyatt Johnston, 55. Okay, flame on, boys. Let me know what's going on here.
Now, I think that it's definitely aggressive, but it could hit. I'm not against it. It's a right wing eligible pick. That always helps. What do you think, Mark? Wyatt Johnston in the 5th? Too much?
It's a bit early for me, but he's got upside. So
I'm taking that. That sounds like a backhanded compliment by Mark, and I'm taking that to the bank.
Fair enough. All right, I'll just run through the picks here. So we had Bedard at the 5-1, then Hamilton. I took Boldy, Tavares, Caulfield. Blake took Wyatt Johnston, Reach of the Century. Brock Besser went next. Zibanejad, Joel Eriksson Ek, and Mark, you're on the clock. Who's the pick here?
Yeah, I'm struggling right now. I'm not loving any of my choices. It's a bit early for defense for me, but I also don't like my skater choices. Or my forward choices, and so I think I might just go defense. Not
it
loving
does
this
feel
choice,
like the top of a tier.
I'm gonna go Josh Morrissey.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I do think that Morrissey could have even a better year than he did last year. Matheson goes right afterwards, which I think is also kind of within this tier.
Yeah, it's going back and forth between Morrison and Matheson.
Yeah, I
love
think
that
that's
Matheson
a fair
is getting
conversation
up here. This is awesome. This is what we were talking about last year, but his ADP was 140 or something. So I love that Matheson's getting his flowers. This he's amazing. I mean, I'm low-key into Montreal this year. I mean, for fantasy anyway.
Fair. Yeah, I'm a little hesitant on Matheson. He's been very efficient to get to these numbers for 2 straight years. Maybe he just is that guy, but he's also not the youngest guy in the world. For him to be that efficient for a 3rd straight year, it feels like at some point the other shoe might drop and he might just have a dip. But at 5'11", it's hard to say that's a bad pick. After Matheson, it's Heiskanen, so 3 straight D there. Ehlers goes at 6'1". Tippett goes at 6'2". Nothing from you, please, Blake. And Mark, you went McAvoy, back-to-back D. I'm actually pretty into McAvoy after doing my projection, but talk to me about what you like about McAvoy at 6'3".
Well, I'm not really into it. I'm feeling kind of
okay.
Taking 2 defensemen.
He's rattled
early. I definitely like to fade defensemen a bit more than this, but just looking at my forward options right now, I feel like a lot of the guys that I've got rated high will come back to me. So might as well get a couple of guys on defense who I think stand a pretty good chance of holding down power play 1 for the year, and I've got them. I don't like it, but I've got them.
What a glowing endorsement.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. All right, we've got some more comments here. Blake, you're on the clock.
All right, I'll make a pick. You talk about the comments.
All right. The comments are J. Roma, who's in this draft, says these rounds are a nightmare. I don't disagree. Optic Yemi said the professor was stolen. Mike Matheson, that is. Jackson said he was hoping Norrisy would drop till next round. And Party at the Moon Tower says Miro at 512 was pretty nice. I could see that one being pretty nice. Blake, you took Zach Werenski. It was exactly what I expected you to do, to play the heel once again. I'm on the clock now, so I'm going to shut up. You talk about Werenski.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, I feel like we were a year off here. The guy was injured, and there was so much turmoil in Columbus. I think this could really be the year of Werenski. The summer of Werenski, although he plays in the fall. That joke doesn't make any sense. But, yeah, I think this is a defenseman with 20-goal upside, and, he's getting a ton of minutes. He's a metrics guy. So I'm definitely into Zach Werenski. We got to see who the coach is there, just to kind of sort everything out. But it looks like that should be done in the next week or two here.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that, I'm going to time out again here. No, I'm going to take Fiala just before we snuck it in under the wire. Yeah, you talked a little bit about Fiala in a pod recently, Blake. So, yeah, if LA does do anything differently, right, if they do open things up a little bit offensively, that's only going to mean good things. And the person it would mean the most for, in my mind, would be Kevin Fiala as the most offensively talented player on the team. So overall, I'm pretty happy. In the late sixth to be getting Fiala feels like a pretty strong spot. Continue to add left wing, right wing, as Mark mentioned, that dual eligibility, that feels really good in these rounds, just kind of loading up on wingers so I don't feel pressured into having to reach for wingers later on. All of that combining to make me feel pretty good about that. In between us, Blake, between your Werenski pick and my Fiala pick, we had Ovechkin and DeBrincat go, which is an interesting pairing in the 6th round. Last year they were going more like in the 2nd, 3rd round, these two. Then we had Trocheck's at the 6'11". He obviously is coming off a terrific season. Friend of the show, Vinny Tro. At the turn, we got Mo Sider and Jordan Kyrou, which is an interesting pairing there. It's going to come back around to me, and I'm thinking this is a place where I'm going to make a stand and make another pick based on some projections, just because I kind of want to talk about it. But Alex Tuck, I'm going to go here, right wing, add another right wing to the mix, get that solidified so I don't have to feel like I'm reaching for right wing later. But Alex Tuck, I think, is going to be a guy who's going to produce in these kind of points leagues where you do get some weight for the shots and the peripherals. I have him projected for, I believe it was 71 points, over 70 points anyway this year. I think, again, he could be a beneficiary of Lindy Ruff coming into town and giving them a bit of a boost offensively. Yeah, I just think that the whole Buffalo team should have a pretty significant boost this year, and I want to be in on Buffalo as a team and getting pieces of that offense. Right before me, it was Brian Russ, so we're getting a little bit of a right-wing run here, but there are still some names. I see one name coming up that you might like, Blake.
Oh man, yeah. There's some little goalie run. Should I? Dare I? Hell no. What the hell are these people doing? J. Roma, De Lorenzo, you're on notice. All right, we don't do that here. All right. Both solid picks. Should be good goalies, obviously next year. But to me, these couple scoring like goalies really aren't very valuable, right? That's just from experience in playing couple. So it's an easy 0G for me. Anyways, there's a guy that's sitting here, and he was falling in another draft that I'm doing. I'm actually doing a dynasty draft here, and it's Baby Dry. This guy is Rupe Hintz. He's falling down the draft board. I just got him at 7'6". I think he's still this is a 70-point player with who doesn't really have that good power play numbers. Like if he starts clicking on the power play, bang, maybe we got point per game hints. I think there's a chance here. So I like the player. I like what he brings to the table. And at this round, ridiculous.
You like his team too, apparently.
Yeah, that's a fair bit of Dallas that you got going on there. Do you think that, because I think this is an interesting point, do you think that taking Wyatt Johnston is kind of a bet against Hintz in a way, or do you think that both can have pop-off seasons?
Yeah, they played them together. They played Johnston, Hintz, and Robertson on a line together. So, regardless, they'll all be together on the power play. So I think it's a top 6 power play 1 situation for all 3 of those guys, in my opinion. So I'm not too worried. That said, 3 players from one team, that's it. Like, I can't go any more Dallas. I did that with Florida last year, and it worked out really well. But yeah, that's, it's getting a little bit risky bisky there. So that's enough, Dallas. Don't need any more stars here.
All right. So yeah, after my tuck pick, it went Saros, Bobrovsky. Then you took Hintz. Then it was Marchessault, Slavkovsky, Kreider, and Mark. You took Bo Horvat. Talk to me about what you see out of Blake's favorite player.
Well, he shows up really well in my projections, so I looked into him a little bit, and for whatever reason, my projections have him scoring over 70 points. But he scored, I think, 68 last year, so I don't know. I think he provides pretty good value for the 7th round. I don't like the fact that he's center only, and I also don't like the fact that he plays on the Islanders. They've got kind of a crappy schedule, so it's not really what you want to be building your late centers around. But I'm not in love with any of the forwards that are out there, so might as well go for one that has hopefully some points upside.
Fair enough. You're back on the clock here. After your Horvat pick, it was Riley, then Scheifele, then Erik Karlsson, and then Sean Jersey, which is an interesting pick there. Who you got here, Mark?
I'm still struggling here.
Still struggling. He's gonna end up taking another defenseman here. That's what's gonna happen. It's inevitable.
Just
succumb.
click on the
take a goalie, Mark. Just take a goalie.
This is ugly. Really
this
ugly.
is an interesting part of the draft for sure. We had J Roma in the chat saying that's double notice for me now, Blake. After you give
it cancels each other out, J Roma. So you're good.
Oh, is that how it works?
Yeah, no, he's good now.
All right. So Mark, you took Tyler Toffoli. Are you happy with that pick? Do you think there's upside in San Jose?
I'm not happy with that pick. I like the fact that there's left wing, right wing eligibility. I do think San Jose is going to be a little bit better this year. Blake and I talked about that a little bit on the pod the other day. I mean, he's guaranteed going to be in the top 6 and have a scoring role. So hopefully he can do something for me.
All right. I'm going to load up my queue so I don't end up with any of these terrible timeout picks that I've been making so far. I do think there's still some pretty interesting names. I think some of this is probably just early ADP where I think it'll get sorted out a bit. But I definitely think there's some pretty interesting names out here. So after Toffoli, it was Jarvis, Chychrun, Nelson, Hanifin, Sergachev, Montour. I think Sergachev should have gone probably 3 rounds higher. I probably, if I had been thinking about it, would have taken him.
He's really low in the ADPs here. Like, he doesn't have an ADP.
He's definitely very buried.
Yeah, I would have taken him over Hanifin for sure.
Yeah.
Didn't see him there.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna set us up here. No, I can't. I got to take Seth Jones. I think Seth Jones has actually had quietly a pretty terrific season last year in Chicago. I think that Chicago got better. If they get remotely better, I think Seth Jones at 8-10 is going to feel like an absolute steal at the end of the year. Kind of finishing off this D tier a little bit. There's probably one more player that I'd consider in this tier, 1 or 2 maybe. But yeah, it's definitely a big D run in the 8th. Mark Stone goes at 8-11. It's going to come back around. There's definitely players of interest here. I do feel like we're kind of in this other tier now. Like, I feel like if I look back just at my team, Konechny 4-10, Boldy 5-3, Fiala 6-10. I feel like all those players exist in a very similar range to me, so getting them across 3 rounds is kind of odd, but it does feel like those are very similar players in a lot of respects. And then when it comes down to it here, I think now we're kind of into another tier of players where it is kind of hard to really fault people for any pick that they make in this range. After Mark Stone on the turn, A5 goes Hischier and Theodore. One more pick, and then I'm back on the clock. I've got a couple options queued up. I'll see if there's anybody else who sticks out for me, but I I'm fairly happy with where I'm at the moment. I don't think I'm gonna be going too far. Maybe I should look at the goalies. Oh, that's ugly. I don't know why it shows me these terrible goaltenders. Oh, Thatcher Demko is still here, Blake. You should probably do that.
Don't you worry about me, buddy. All right.
All right, I'm back on the clock here, debating a little bit. I already have filled up with two right wing onlys. Drake Batherson would make a lot of sense, just I think as a value pick here. I think this is a good spot to be grabbing him. Nazem Kadri, a player that I also projected. I've only got Matthews as my only other center only player. And Kadri definitely purports to score a lot of points again. I do think they kind of now officially view him as the 1C in Calgary. He played more and more as the season wore on and was really up to the task. I think I am going to go Kadri just because I'm going to go for the good old hometown boy there. Blake, what do you think about Kadri? Am I wrong to be high on him? I know he's not the youngest player anymore. Maybe there's an age cliff coming, but yeah, just seemed like he got better as the season wore on, and he could be the leading scorer by a bit of a margin there in Calgary this year.
Yep. I think it's a safe pick, especially at pick 99 where you got him. Like that makes sense to me. He's a metrics guy, so he's a good shooter, generates a good amount of chances, and yeah, like you said, he's power play 1. And I just talked about a guy who I'm really stoked on, Martin Pospisil, and he's probably going to play with him and Big Koozie. So that's a nice little line there, and I think Kadri's definitely got some upside, and in the 9th round, you're loving that.
All right, Skylar thinks it's a great pick, so I'm happy now.
Nice.
We've got Brad Marchand coming off. One more pick before you're up again, Blake. Do you have something in mind here? Byfield comes off.
That's a bit of a snipe. I mean, I wasn't. Yeah, that wasn't my pick, but I was considering him there. So that's a nice pick. I like Byfield this year a lot. You know what? I can't in good conscience leave this man here anymore. This makes no sense at this point. Nuge. We got to get Nuge. We're not talking 100-point Nuge. We're talking 70-point Nuge. But we're also talking Nuge at pick 102. Okay, yeah. That's pretty damn nice. I mean, he's going to walk into 70 points, folks. What are we doing?
Yep. Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. It's a floor pick for sure here. And you've seen the upside, right? If everything goes perfect again, you could definitely see him bump back up into the 80 or even 90-point range if things go right. So it's hard to hate on that pick there. As we progress here, just want to pick your brain a little bit, Mark. Maybe you're frantically searching through, but when we get into these 9th and 10th rounds, double digits, stuff like that, do you start to look more for upside, or are you still just kind of basing everything off projection, kind of filling out the roster? What's going through your mind as you're coming up to your pick here at 9-10?
I'm still drafting with the mindset that it's going to be a player who's going to be on my roster for the year. Now, once you get down this far, it's definitely a possibility that you'll end up dropping these players. But I think what I'm about to do here will sort of show you my mindset. I'm going to take Frank Vitrano.
All right.
Again, getting the dual eligibility, which I like. Anaheim, obviously, best team in the league for off nights. So just a solid streamer type level player that you can hold on to, and you'll get him into your roster almost every night. So that's how I'm thinking about it at this point.
Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty underrated aspect of drafting somebody like that. Is anybody off Anaheim almost feels like a free streamer because it opens up your roster so much, given how many off nights they're going to have this year. There's some other teams that have high off nights too, but Anaheim, like every single year, always has the most off nights. So yeah, it really does open up your roster and open up your stream ability throughout the season. So it's definitely worth bumping up the Anaheim guys. I don't know by how much, but like if you're actively debating between an Anaheim guy and another guy in your mind, then I think like it's for sure. I would say even more than a tiebreaker in my mind. How do you feel, Blake?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you guys about, using schedule for draft purposes. Like, I wish Anaheim had some better options. Like some of their, like their guys are kind of in the 60-point range. You know what I mean? That's sort of what we're looking at. No one's really going to blow the doors down, but they do have some better options now, even with Cutter Gauthier in there. Like if he doesn't get drafted, like that's a nice little streamer there. Guys like Minty Kov, Zellweger, like, you know, they could do stuff for fantasy. So yeah, I'm low-key into Anaheim, but I don't know. I just don't really think about schedule too much when I'm drafting, and maybe I should.
Fair enough. At the turn, after your Vetrano pick, it goes Batherson, Buchnevich. Another good pick there. Georgiev goes off at the 10-1. Lafreniere at 10-2. And Mark, you went back to defense with Pietrangelo. Are you interested in Pietrangelo? It feels a little bit like he might be buried there behind Hanifin and Theodore, at least in terms of power play time. What's your expectation for him this year?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, him and Theodore have sort of gone back and forth on power play for a while, and obviously Hanifin is just going to muddy the water a little bit more. I think it's just unsettled as to what's going to happen. I know Hanifin had a few games down the stretch there where he was getting majority power play time, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if it sort of shifts in and out over the course of the season. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not going to be a top D, but he's a guy who just seems to end up on my roster almost every year. I think I value him a bit higher than other people do. He's going to provide peripherals. Vegas has an okay schedule this year. It's not great, but yeah, I think he'll provide points. I don't expect him to dominate the power play, but I think he'll get some time there.
Fair enough. All right, after your Pietrangelo pick, it goes Raymond, Brady Shea, Matt Duchesne, and Blake.
Duchesne?
You're on the clock.
It was Duchesne. Oh, I'll talk to you, buddy. Why is this man still here? What the hell round of 10th round? No, I'm taking Patty Kane. All right. Again, another lock pretty much for 70 points. I don't see how he doesn't get 70 points next year. He's going to be top 6, top power play. You know, and all he does is, you know, produce offense, right? And play crap in the defensive zone. Ooh, Aaron Ekblad's a really good pick. Actually, that's one that I would probably like to target, especially at this point in the draft. That's a really nice one.
Yeah, I do think that's a nice pick. It feels like he's going to be the top power play quarterback there.
Adam
on the clock here. Yeah, that could be an option for them for sure. Just go with like a dedicated specialist. That's definitely a possibility for them. It's an odd spot. The defensemen are really starting to fall off at this point. Vince Dunn would feel good, but Brandon Montour came to town, and now nobody's too sure about what that means. I'm going to go Gabe Velarde here. Center right wing eligibility feels pretty good there. Vasilevsky went at 10-9, which, yeah, like even if you're going 0G to get Vazzy at 10-9, feels pretty good. I am a little bit concerned, I'm not going to lie, about Tampa in general this year. They've not been, like, I think everyone still views them as like a powerhouse team, but they've not been that through the regular season for a couple seasons now, and now they've significantly altered their team. They've lost Sergachev and replaced him with JJ Moser, which all due respect to JJ Moser, he's not at that level of player. So I do think that there's a chance that Tampa has a bit of a downswing this season, but I mean, yeah, Vasilevsky with the years and years of production that he's had, you know he's going to get volume, so you can at least just kind of chuck that in your goalie spot all year and probably feel pretty good about it. Yeah, this is where the goalies are going to come off. I think Swayman goes and Ottinger goes at 10-12. It's hard to argue. I don't hate it at this point. Still comfortable to push it personally, but I'm definitely not going to fault anybody for taking these guys who feel like entrenched starters. Anyway, you know, things change throughout the season. They do every year, but guys who feel like entrenched starters, it's hard to debate at this point. I am still looking for some defensemen. I have just Dahlin and Seth Jones here. I do think there's some guys who would be interesting. There are some guys who can maybe take over some roles and potentially provide some extra value this year, but I do think that my other pick that I have in the queue is a pretty good one too. I think I'm going to go with Vince Dunn, though. It feels like even if he's not, like, what he accomplished over the last few years in Seattle, it was still a split power play. So even if Montour comes in and does take away top power play, I don't feel like the hit to Dunn is going to be as significant as a lot of people think. And so I'm pretty okay with Vince Dunn as my third defenseman in the 11th round there. Jackson says, I will not give in, hashtag 0G. Hugo's asking, what is the website? It's across the top of the stream, www.applesandgenos.com. J. Roma goes Ryan O'Reilly. D. Lorenzo goes Brock Faber. Blake, who you got here?
I don't know. Oh, I've got a couple guys that I'm thinking I'd like to get, again, there's a couple center onlys that I really want, but I can't justify doing that right now. You know what? All right, let's go here. I hate that sound. Oh, there we go. Okay. Marty Necas. All right. I think, we're either looking at a player that bounces back and gets a little bit more deployment, or someone who gets traded to a team that is going to deploy him. So I feel good about this in the 11th round. Like, this is a great power play performer. It's just someone who needs some opportunity. So if he doesn't get it in Carolina, I would imagine they maybe move on from him and get somebody else and get Necas somewhere where he can perform.
Yeah, that is an interesting one. Is this finally the year where Rod Brindamore gives the top players top minutes? Mark, what are your thoughts on Carolina?
I'm not going to hold my breath on that. That team just frustrates me to no end, and so unless your name is Sebastian Aho, you're not going to be on my team most of the time.
Yeah, that's a fair stance.
I mean, could Necas take off? Absolutely. I think he's very talented, but I don't know. It just scares me being on Carolina.
Fair enough. Oh, Jackson's saying Fantrax. I think that's probably what Hugo was after, what the website of that we're drafting on is. So yeah, this is Fantrax that we're drafting on here. So after your pick of Necas, Blake, it goes Brent Burns, it goes Elias Lindholm, which feels like a pretty solid pick with some upside in the 11th. If he can find his form back in Boston, if he sticks all season alongside Pasternak at even strength and on the power play, that could definitely have some upside. Jackson goes Hagel. Mark, who you got at the 11-10?
Well, I'm going to go back to my dual eligibility, team good schedule strategy, and take Trevor Moore.
Fair enough. Do you think that, obviously Trevor Moore had a monstrous season last year compared to anything he'd ever done before. How much of that was just riding a big shooting percentage? Obviously, he came back down to earth in a large way over the back half of the season. Do you think that, most of it was just him leveling up as a player? Do you think that there's some regression coming back? How worried about regression are you, I guess, is the best question here.
I mean, for a round 11 pick, end of the 11th round, I'm not going to be too worried about it. I don't expect him to be one of the best players on my team. Mm-hmm. We're well within the territory where if he doesn't perform, you just drop him. And otherwise, like, he's going to be very flexible and fit into... there goes there goes Blake's favorite player.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, give me Boone Jenner in the 12th. I feel like we did that. We at Apples and Genos did that right there. Congratulations, Boone Jenner.
Yeah, it's the turn is interesting here. Bennett, Rob Thomas, Nick Schmaltz, Boone Jenner. Definitely some players that we've talked about a few times here at Apples and Genos. Jackson understands what the Boone Jenner love is all about. Mark, you went Dylan Cousins. You think that Cousins hangs on to that 4 spot on the Buffalo power play all year?
I'm certainly hoping he does. I mean, he's shown some absolutely incredible scoring metrics at times, but like most of Buffalo, everything just sort of dipped last year. So, a bounce back would be great. Dual eligible again, so center, right wing. And if it doesn't work out, then you can drop him. But if you can get a guy like Dylan Cousins in the 12th round, I think you got to be pretty happy.
Yeah, someone who's at least shown you that he's capable of it before, right?
Yeah.
Jackson goes with Nick Suzuki. Jimmy Jam goes with Gus Nyquist. Blake, you think that Gus Nyquist might hang on to that power play spot? Oh, we'll let you make your pick here.
I don't think it's just like cut and dry that Nyquist is going to be bounced off the top one. I think Johnny Marsh or so. How do you say that again, Mark?
Don't ask me to repeat it.
Oh
Yeah.
God, sorry about this. Yeah. But yeah, I do think that it'll be it's 50-50, but if he's not on power play one, Nyquist is a bust, no question. I gotta go D here. Giggity. I'm gonna take Jake the Snake Sanderson. I think that Sanderson actually has a beat on power play one there in Ottawa. With Thomas Chabot maybe ripping down a power play two. They're into Sanderson for a bunch of money. I mean, Chabot too, obviously, but I think I like what Sanderson brings to the tables, especially in terms of his zone exits and possession game. Like the guy's just a really strong player, so I'm into it.
Fair enough. I am going to go with Dylan Genther here at my pick.
Nice.
I've talked about him a bit this offseason already, but what he's put up already is pretty impressive. Small sample size, to be fair, in the 12th round, though. I'm going to swing on this because I think that, there's real potential here. Similar to the Paterka pick, a couple picks before me. I like both those players. Decent chance that both these guys have a pop-off season, and taking that swing in the 12th feels really good. If he doesn't pan out, I'm not going to be too worried about it. Thomas Hurdle goes in between us there. I got to add some more players to the queue. Blake, there is one player out there that I thought you'd be selecting before now, but it seems like he hasn't shown up on your radar yet.
Oh man, you're gonna have to tell me which one it is after we draft here. Keep it in the back of your mind because I want to know what you're thinking. But yeah, I've got some different strategies here. Like, to be honest, like this is a mock draft in July. I mean, my God, I strategize quite a bit when I do my actual leagues. But this is kind of there we go. Was that him, Nichushkin?
No, that is definitely one that you've come up with a nickname for, but no, Nichushkin was not the player that I was thinking that
Right,
you'd
we'll see.
be.
We'll see if I get it.
You'd be into. Oh, there it goes.
Oh,
that pick.
Arvidsson though, he's capped. I had him for 70 last year. I don't think he touches that this year. His floor goes up though, so that's why I'm happy with Arvidsson there. But yeah, I'm at this point. I am interested though. Oh, what are you doing here, Nate?
I'm just setting myself up as your op here. You took Sanderson, so I'm going to take Thomas Chabot at the 13-3. So yeah, on the turn there, after my Genther pick, it went Devin Tays, Val Nichushkin, Jake DeBrusk, Victor Arvidsson. I took Chabot, Thomas Harley next to Jay Roma. Can't hate on that pick either. One more pick before it comes back to you, Blake. How are you feeling about the team? Are you going to round this thing out here?
Yeah, I like this team. If this was my team at the end of the day, I'd actually be pretty stoked. So, I need to pick this player up. This is a guy I've been thinking about a lot this offseason, when I'm in bed with my eyes closed. I don't know where I'm going with that. Matty Beniers is a player that I am actually really high on this upcoming season. And he's a player that doesn't show up in the metrics that we look at here, Nate. To me, this is based solely on his ability to generate chances off the rush, and also his poor efficiency, Seattle in general, and their unlucky season they had with their efficiency. So I think Seattle bounces back, and I think Beniers is going to get the top power play treatment.
Fair enough. Aiden Hill goes right after that. That feels like a decent spot for him to go, with Logan Thompson getting shipped out of town. Gabe Landeskog went at 13-5. That's an interesting one as well. The latest news story that I had seen on that is that he said that he thought he'd be back in playing between mid-September and the start of April. That was his estimated timeline for himself. So we really have no idea what the game plan is when he thinks he'll actually be playing. But yeah, if you could stash him in IR in the 13th round, stash him in IR whenever he plays, he's probably going to be pretty decent, even if he gets some reduced minutes to start, something like that. Pretty hard to hate on that pick there. Aiden Hill goes 13-7, as I mentioned. Jacob Markstrom, the new goaltender for the New Jersey Devils, goes behind him. Rasmus Anderson at the 13-9. And Mark, you're back on the clock. Do you have an idea where you're going with this?
Got a couple of ideas. None of them are good, but I don't know. Maybe I'll throw this one out for
Love the confidence
for Blake.
Oh, big koozie. You're not going to hate that pick. I'll tell you that right now. Beautiful head of hair.
Oh, and right behind
and
it,
then
hit
the
it.
Zucchini Man. Oh my God, Zucchini Man! Yeah, zucchini loaf in your life. I think that's what we should call him now. He's not the Zucchini Man. He's the Zucchini loaf. All right, he's getting old. He's getting long in the tooth, but that's fine.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's an interesting pick. I posted actually his projection earlier today. I've got him for I think it was 28 goals, 22 assists, 50 points on the dot. Yeah, there's just I think there's some plus or minus to that, right? With Kuzmenko, it's hard to know. Obviously, in Vancouver, it seemed like he was not a favorite of Rick Tocchet, and so that does make you wonder if that's a possibility at some point in his time in Calgary. If he'll just kind of get demoted down the lineup and off the top power play, I would obviously completely hinder him. But there is probably an upside case here too. He's shown himself to be a really efficient goal scorer throughout his short career in the NHL so far. So there's definitely an upside case there as well. After Zuccarello, it goes Strome and Gostisbehere on the turn. Gostisbehere is one I was looking at as well. Do like that pick in the 14th round. Presumptive power play one quarterback for the Carolina Hurricanes, who always run a really good power play. Love that pick in the 14th. Anze Kopitar goes at 14-2, and Mark, you're back on the clock. Who's it going to be?
I think I got to get another D.
Giggity.
Here we go.
Minchikov.
Minchikov, yes.
All right,
Fresh
talk to
maker.
me. Yeah, talk to me about Minchikov versus Zellweger. Zellweger obviously joined the team late last year, had some run, got some power play one time late last year. Do you think that, like, do you view Minchikov as the guy who would be the one to supplant Cam Fowler over time, or do you think that Zellweger is more likely to be the power play one guy? I think with this pick, you're at least hoping that Minchikov would be the power play one guy. But where's your confidence level at? Obviously, it's a 14th round pick, but talk me through it.
Yeah, it's obviously not very high. But, he's been around a little bit longer than Zellweger, and hopefully that plays to his advantage. Again, it could be one of these situations where it's not just either or, that they sort of share responsibilities. Of course, Anaheim, gotta love the schedule, and that just opens up streaming spots for defense. I'm going to end up this draft with no goalies, so you got to think about leaving leaving spots open, and Anaheim's a good way to do that. So, I don't think he's going to be my best defenseman, but I don't know. He's a guy that's worth taking a shot on, and if it doesn't work out, then of course you kick him to the curb and you find somebody else.
Fair enough. All right. After that, we go Cam York, we go Pavel Zacha, we go Owen Power, and Blake. You finally caved. Take your walk of shame. Tell us why you took a goaltender.
I have nothing to prove to anyone. All right, still a good person, but yeah, I mean Sorokin in the 14th round, like how the mighty have fallen. I mean, I think Sorokin's better than a lot of the goalies that have gone before him. Obviously, the Islanders' defensive situation is not the way it used to be, right? It's not good, so he had to really outperform the environment there, and he did because he's a really good goalie. But I expect the Islanders' defensive system to be a little bit better, even if it's just a little bit better, and Sorokin stays the same. I think we're looking at a much better season for this guy. And in the 14th round, now I'm starting to look at value for goalies here.
Yep. Obviously, it's pretty hard to hate on Sorokin in the 14th. Giroux and Skinner go right after. Then it's back to me here. I'm just checking in on the centers to see if there's anybody I'm missing. Got a pretty good idea of what I want to do here. I'm going to go with Troy Terry. Is my third right wing only, which is usually something I wouldn't love too much, but we got 2 skater slots in this, and Anaheim does have all those off nights, as we've already mentioned. And so I'm going to be okay with that. Terry's coming up in terms of his fantasy points per game as I have it sorted here on the screen, but also I think that last year was pretty much the worst possible year that we could see from Troy Terry. And I think any sort of bounce back should elevate him well above this 14th round draft capital that I've invested in him here. Jeff Skinner going right before at 14-9 was definitely a player that I was going to be interested in as well. Yeah, it's just an easy upside pick in the 14th round to say, hey, if Jeff Skinner sticks on a Connor McDavid line all year, he's going to score 30 and he might score 40. So hard to hate on that pick as well. After that, it went William Karlsson. It went Darnell Nurse. 8-5, going to make another pick here. I've got to decide where I'm going. Where you're definitely getting down into the dregs of the draft here, trying to take some swings, trying to figure out who could actually break out and be a member of your team and a difference-making member of your team long term. It gets obviously harder and harder the further down the draft board we go. Are there any guys that you've already identified from the list here that stick out as potential sleepers, or are we still in July draft mode where it's just too hard to figure that out?
I don't know. I do like the Mintyukov pick. I actually really like it for all the reasons that you said. But plus, I actually think like he has like 40-point potential next year. So to me, like in round 14 again, or you get all the off nights, like that's damn nice. And Zegras in round 15 too. That's lovely. What the heck? That's a great pick. I totally didn't see Zegras there. All right. I think I have to, the ultimate sleeper. All right. This man literally fell asleep, but that's fine. We'll wake him up. We'll get him out there. We'll roll him on the ice. Oh, Malkin. Yeah, let's go. Michkov. Oh, I love that pick in the 15th too. This guy should be what Bedard did last season, right? We could be looking at a 60-point guy again, 15th round. Maybe they give him even more run, but I still take Malkin over Michkov, I think, next year. I love Malkin in the 15th. What are we doing here?
Yeah, hard to argue with that. So yeah, coming through the 15th here, we had McTavish at 15-1, Forsling 15-2. I took Zegras 15-3. Feel really good about that. Pair him up with Terry. You got a little bit of a correlated bet there. Playing different positions, not too worried about stacking them up. And probably they play together a fair bit, including on the power play. Teravainen goes 15-4, Michkov 15-5. Blake takes Malkin at 15-6. And Jonathan Drouin goes 15-7. That feels like a pretty strong pick as well. Feels like he really kind of cemented himself alongside McKinnon this year. So be a little bit surprising if he doesn't reprise that role. Coleman goes 15-8. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen goes 15-9. And Mark, you're on the clock with the 15-10.
All right, I got to take Zetterlund.
Hey, Zetterlund, all right.
Talked about him a little bit on the pod with Blake. Dual eligible, which, I love. And San Jose doesn't have a great schedule, but I think this guy's got upside. Can certainly, return value at pick 178. So add him to my team.
Yeah, I think that's a fair pick there. There were definitely points last year where Zetterlund was the streamer to have, basically. And yeah, there are always those guys from these teams that nobody wants to pick somebody up from because they all know the team is doing terrible. But just ignoring those teams for fantasy purposes is definitely not a smart move because you can definitely find lots of value from those teams. Evan Rodriguez goes after that pick. Kirill Marchenko at 15-12. Don't hate that. Arturi Lehkonen at 16-1. Linus Ullmark, the newest starter in Ottawa, goes 16-2. And Mark, you're back on the clock. Round things out with Justin Falk. Talk to me about Falk.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like just about everybody doesn't want to touch the defenseman in St. Louis. And that's why both him and another guy who perhaps I shouldn't name because someone else might be thinking about picking him up, but I think it's pretty obvious who it would be. I think the two main candidates for power play time in St. Louis still available at the very end of the draft, and so I'll pick him up. He'll get some peripherals, maybe he'll get some points, maybe he'll play on the power play, and if not, then it's the last pick of the draft, so not much downside.
Yeah, I should mention we're only going 16 rounds. Typically, you'd get like a four-person bench here, but I didn't want this one to drag out too long. I've already been streaming for over an hour, and I knew it would take some time to get through everything here. After your Falk pick, it goes Mikael Granlund, so another member of the San Jose team comes off there. Matthias Ekholm, and one more pick before your last pick, Blake. Do you have a sleeper in mind?
There's a lot left here, but to me, they're all center onlys. And that's good learning for me here because there's a lot of really good centers that are available late. So again, just to your point too, Mark, like we got to load up on wingers and D early. Wingers, I know you like wingers, Mark, but I like getting wingers and defensemen early or dual eligible, all that stuff. Because yeah, there's a bunch of good center onlys left. And I'm not going to pick any of them. So, I mean, I'll even say like we got Leo Carlson out there, Shane Pinto. These are guys I'm interested in. Adam Fantilli. Josh Norris is out there. Pierre-Luc Dubois. Eklund even. I love Eklund, but I'm going to go with the goalie here to round out my team. And I'm going to go with, I'm going to choose the environment. I'm going to go with Darcy Kemper here as my last pick because LA is an amazing goalie environment. I think he's just going to run into some wins and, good save percentage, all that other stuff. So I like Kemper this year as a really, like as a 0G pick.
Yeah, hard to argue there. If LA does just kind of run it back with the defensive style, and Kemper could be a home run. Jordan Binnington right after that, hard to argue with that. Jake Wallman as a potential power play 1 quarterback in San Jose, definitely an interesting pick. Yeah, I'm just kind of going off upside with my pick here, my last pick of the draft, 16-10. Fantilli was the guy that I was thinking about for sure. I do think like Celebrini makes a lot of sense in this range as well from the Sharks, but talked about Fantilli last year before he got injured as really starting to come on. And I think, yeah, he just got derailed last year. I think that there is potentially like a true superstar player in the waiting here in Fantilli. I'm not sure that it happens this year. It still feels like Columbus is trying to figure out who they are as a franchise a little bit. But I do think that I just want to be in on a guy that I think is really, really talented like Fantilli. And yeah, to get him in the last round of a draft or 16th round, if this were to go to 18, I do think that that would be a pretty exciting pick to make. We rounded out with Igor Sharangovich and Joseph Wall at 16-12, which is another pick I don't mind as a presumptive 1A in Toronto now. I did go literal 0G. I believe you did as well, Mark, right?
I did, yes.
All right, let me show the board as much as I possibly can here. Well, let's review our teams a little bit. I don't mind starting with my team here. So I'll just read it as it shows up in the roster. But my centers here show as Matthews and Stamkos. My left wings would be Boldy and Fiala. Right wings would be Konechny and Alex Tuck. My defensemen, Dahlin, Seth Jones, Vince Dunn, Thomas Chabot. My 2 skater slots are filled by Nazem Kadri and Gabe Velarde, and then my 4 bench players would be Dylan Guenther, Troy Terry, Trevor Zegras, and Adam Fantilli. Rate my draft, Blake. Give me a letter grade here.
Well, I mean, it would have been a lot better if you would have kept Hellebuck and I don't know the other goalie that you picked there, but that's fine. Not really a true 0G draft for you, Nate. So let's be honest about that. But yeah, I mean, the Stamkos pick I'm not really into, but I think that was a rushed pick for you. You were just trying to get that done. So I like Stamkos this year, but I'm not targeting him. Like new face, new place. I don't know how that's really going to work on the power play. But Konechny's awesome. Boldy, you sniped from me. I mean, not a true snipe, but yeah, I'm really high on Boldy this year. You've just got the floor on your team is insanely solid, right? And then Terry and Zegras like late that way. Oh man, that's going to be excellent work there. And then Fantilli at 16. That's silliness. So yeah, I really like the draft. Who would you go? Obviously, like, would you go 0G the way Mark does, or who were the goalies you would maybe target at this point now?
Yeah, that's fair. I wasn't really thinking about them just because I knew that they'd be kind of off the board for me last round kind of situation. I would have some interest in Lindgren. I think that Washington should be better this year. Connor
with
Ingram.
Thompson there?
Yeah, I think that's definitely like a 1A, 1B situation, but I think Lindgren gets the first crack at it. I'm not excited about it. I'm not excited about any goalie, really, but I do think that he's an option. It's one of the Carolina goalies, like just kind of go somewhere there and hope you get the right guy. That's definitely a route you can go. Tristan Jarry could have a bounce back year. That would not surprise me in the slightest. Yeah, there's a few guys here. Joey Decord, Connor Ingram obviously had stretches last year where they were pretty good. We could see a reprise from one or both of them this year. Philip Gustafson is actually probably the one that I'm the most high on that's still left on the board. I think that last year was a bit of an aberration. I think he probably bounces back. He did start to bounce back, actually, in the last part of last year, and it was just kind of past the point where fantasy managers were willing to accept it from him, I think, and so I don't think it's going to be in the collective conscious much, but I don't think he's as bad as people are thinking after the season that was. So probably if I had to pick a single one out of this list, it would be Philip Gustafson. Mark, why don't you take us through your team? Anything you loved or didn't like? Anything you do different?
Well, yeah, definitely do some things different, but it's first draft in the middle of July, so uh, I thought I got off to a really solid start. Actually, I really like Jack Hughes, Matthew Tkachuk, and Jack Eichel. I don't mind Timo Meyer in the fourth round. I know he left a really bad taste in everybody's mouth because of how long he or how slow his start was last year, but he was solid at the end of the year.
Hmm.
And so I don't mind picking him up in the fourth round. He could easily bounce back. Uh, Picking defensemen in the fifth and sixth rounds, it's a little bit earlier than I would like, but I picked up two that I think are probably going to be pretty reliable, so that's just fine. Uh, Bo Horvat, I think he provides value there. I don't think, or I don't like the fact that he's a center only, but what are you going to do? And then this is where things sort of came off the rails a little bit. Not at all excited about Toffoli and Vetrano in the eighth and ninth. I mean, the best things that can be said about them are they're versatile players who will fit into my lineup.
Hmm.
Petrangelo, not necessarily a pick I love, but then towards the end, I don't mind. I think things picked back up. Trevor Moore, Dylan Cousins, Kuzmenko, Minchikov, Zetterlund, Falk. I think those are all versatile players I picked up at the end of the draft. So I'm pretty happy with all of those choices. I think this is the kind of lineup that does set you up pretty well for going literal zero G. I've got very few skaters who are only eligible in one spot. I've got a
Hmm.
couple of center only players. To the extent that I could, I did pick players from teams who play a lot on off nights. So I've got some Anaheim players, New Jersey players, LA players, Winnipeg. So that's going to give me a lot of flexibility to be streaming extra skaters in. So I don't know. It's kind of a shit sandwich here. I like the beginning and I like the end, but I think there's some work to be done on those middle rounds.
Yeah, I think the middle rounds are actually the toughest part, especially at this point in the off season. It's trying to figure out who should be a fifth round pick versus an eighth round pick. Just feels impossible this time of year. Feels like we need to get some more projection work done. We need to get some stuff out
Mhm.
there. We need to feel solidified that yeah, these are the guys on the power play, and we get some camp reports, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would tend to agree that it's just tough in those middle rounds to feel really strongly that you like absolutely hit it out of the park, unless you're Blake, because I know he has never done anything wrong in his life. Blake, talk to me about your team.
I'm the second place wizard. All right. Only second place all the time. I don't like to win. I like someone else to win. That's very Canadian of me. But yeah, this team right here, bang. I would be pretty damn happy with this. There's not really any picks that I felt were not what I wanted, right? I mean, yeah, the Johnston pick, sure, a little bit of a reach, but we know the upside there. And I think the floor is actually fairly solid, right? That's not going to crush me. But
Yeah.
to get Pasternak, Yossi, Robertson, and Tage Thompson for my first four picks, like, dear God, that is kind of how I want to start a draft. I really like that. One thing about my draft, it kind of is the exact opposite of what Mark was talking about. And this is something I don't like about my team is they're all single positions. Like a lot of these players are single positions. So,
Yeah.
that's hopefully like Tage was center right wing last year. Now he's center only here in Fantrax. Like, I'm definitely going to look at that because I've kind of boxed myself in here. We do have two skater spots, so that'll be okay. But I have a bunch of center only. I have a bunch of right wing only, so that's not awesome. But yeah, Hintz in the seventh round, I think is amazing value. Maybe the only pick that I'm not super stoked on is Noah Hannafin, but I think he's going to be the power play one quarterback there. Like I probably would have taken Sergachev there. That's what I would have liked to have done. But then in the back half here, big time value. Like Nuge, Kane, Natchez is a crapshoot, so whatever. But Sorokin in the 14th, Malkin in the 15th, ridiculous value. Like if that happens in real life, man, I'll be loving that because these guys' floors are solid. It doesn't matter if they're old or whatever. Like Malkin in the 15th, he's a lock for 60 points. All right, he's power play one in Pittsburgh. Like I just don't get it. So that's a really nice piece there. I just like it. I like this draft, and hopefully I can just transfer this team over to, maybe my couple team this year, and I can actually make the playoffs for once.
Yeah, that would be nice. I can only imagine that would feel great for you, Blake.
Oh God.
D. Lorenzo asking how we thought he did with his draft here. It was Draisaitl, Marner, Quinn Hughes, Tim Stützle, Cole Caulfield, Alex Ovechkin, Sergei Bobrovsky, gets that Mikhail Sergachev in the 8th round, Byfield, Ekblad, Faber, Paterka, Landeskog, Giroux, Michkov, Binnington. Yeah, I feel like this is a pretty
Yeah,
solid team.
really nice.
Hard to poke holes in it. Maybe I'd like for some. I mean, he's got the Michkov pick, he's got the Landeskog pick. I was gonna say some more upside, but that's probably as many swings as you want to take on those kind of players later on in the back half of the draft. So I don't hate that one. Yeah, I think this is a good draft overall. Yeah, getting Sergachev in the 8th, I think he definitely should be drafted more in like that 6th round range where we saw
Yep.
like the Carlson, Werenski, that kind of range of player come off. And I think he will be once everything equals out and once the ADPs kind of even out a little bit. Jackson and A5 want us to check out their drafts as well. Jackson went Kachuk, got that right. Thank you. Pat myself on the back. JT Miller in the 2nd, Point in the 3rd, Dobson in the 4th, Joel Eriksson Ek in the 5th, Larkin, Kreider, Jarvis, Letang, Raymond, Hagel, Suzuki, Rasmus Anderson, Cam York, UPL, and Mikhail Granlund to round things out. I think I like the team. It feels like it's a bit of players that don't have a ton of room to grow, in my opinion. Yeah, we've talked about this maybe offline, Blake. I don't know if we've talked about this online, but Noah Dobson, when we went back and looked at it, under Patrick Waugh, did get his minutes cut. And that is a bit concerning for his points upside. Obviously, showed us what his upside was last year, had a terrific year. But under Patrick Waugh, what does that really look like? I feel like Breeden Point in the 3rd round, you're never going to regret it. JT Miller in the 2nd round, you're never going to regret it. Brady Tkachuk in the end of the 1st round, you're not going to regret it. But getting through the back end of this, I just feel like you might be lacking a breakout player. That would be my feedback. I'd rather, Cam York be somebody, just a big swing on someone like the Minchikov swing that Mark took, or, like the Michkov pick, or just mix in a couple more of those swings, try to hit on something, because more than likely you're dropping these guys anyway. So, yeah, can you just take one swing for me? Live a little, Jackson. I know you can do that. So, A5, obviously McDavid off the rip. Don't really need to look at the rest of the team to know it's great, but Gensel and then pairs McDavid with Hyman, so that's obviously going to feel
This is a
good.
nice team.
Svechnikov, Bedard, Sider, Kyrou, Hischier, Theodore, Ottinger in the 10th. Gaudreau gets the Nichushkin dart throw there in the 12th. DeBrusque, Nurse, McTavish, Joseph Wool. Yeah, I do feel like this is a really solid team front to back. Bedard, I love that in the 5th round. Will probably get elevated into the 3rd and 4th round. Probably the 3rd round, I'd imagine, is where he goes. People will project a 2nd-year leap for a player of his caliber, and probably rightfully so. Yeah, I do like this team. The defense is maybe a little bit on the lacking side. Obviously, only 3 defense through 16 rounds here. Mo Seider is the top guy. Is not something I'm going to love. I've obviously spoken about. Yeah, just I don't know if Mo Seider is that guy for me. Mark, we got to get you to look at one of these teams. Jay Roma wants us to look at his team. Could you look at Jay Roma's team for us here out of the 4 spot?
Yeah, sure. Kucherov going in the 1st round. You got the best right winger, or a good chance of getting the best right winger, so I don't mind that. I like to get my wings early. Crosby, probably still Crosby. Hedman seems like pretty much guaranteed to be top power play for one of the best power plays in the league, so don't hate that. Keller, great versatile player. Tavares starting to drop down a bit. DeBrincat, could have gone a few rounds earlier if this was last year, so I like that there. Hopefully bounces back. I mean, then you've got a couple goalies here, which I guess if you're going to do it, Saros and Vasilevsky are pretty good choices, so can't knock it too hard for that. I guess, I mean, Montour, fine, take a chance on him. Hopefully it's him and not done. either way, he'll probably get some points for you. Marchand, I mean, I guess in the ninth round you can't really be too critical, but that's a player that I just sort of feel is past his prime. But again, in the ninth round, can't really fault you too much. And then, you're in the back half of your draft here. So O'Reilly, obviously the environment there is in Nashville is really looking nice. So hopefully O'Reilly just sort of falls into a whole bunch of points that way. The Harley pick, that's a nice one. Some upside there. I love your Jeff Skinner pick, actually. That in the 14th round, that's just a great pick. Teravainen. Chicago's got the second best off night schedule, and he could be playing alongside Bedard. So I think that's a great shot for late in the draft. If it turns out that there's no chemistry and for whatever reason he's playing down the lineup, it's easy to drop him. But you potentially have a Bedard winger on a team that has a great schedule and he's got dual eligibility. So I actually really like that Teravainen pick in the 15th round. Wallman, I mean, he could end up running the power play there in San Jose. So not a bad pick for your last pick of the draft. I like this team quite a bit, actually.
Yep, I would concur. We've got some stuff going on in the chat. So Matthew, who is out of the 12 spot, asking any advice for drafting on the turn. Found it hard to guess if a whole tier of defensemen would go before my next pick. Ended up reaching. Yeah, what do you say to that, Blake? When you end up on the turn, are you conscious of the potential of defensemen not coming back to you, or any position, right wings, there's scarcity at right wing as well. Do you feel that scarcity? Do you tend to reach for that? How do you handle being on the turn?
Yeah, it depends to me. I mean, at what point of the draft you're in, right? Like for the first 3 rounds, maybe 3-4 rounds, I think choosing best player available is probably your best option. Like, I know it feels weird, right? But like, I don't know. Even just looking at your team here, it's not like you reached massively for anybody. You got Adam Fox at 312 there. I think that's a totally fine pick. You didn't have to reach for that. But, when you're getting on in rounds, right after round 4, maybe, yeah, you're going to have to start reaching for some of your guys, right? Because we're going to get a D run. And then, after the 10th, we're going to get some goalie runs as well. So I don't feel too bad about reaching for players that I like from the turn spot, but maybe not in the first 4 rounds.
Yeah. Yeah, I would concur with that advice. Overall, we shook off some rust here. I shook off some rust of timing out on the clock while looking at comments in the chat.
Timing out, air quote, timing out. All right. He picked Hellebuck, everybody. All right. That's it.
That will be screenshot, I'm sure. But anyway, I think that we have taxed the people's patience long enough. We can probably go ahead and get out of here. So that's going to be all that we've got for this episode. Hopefully it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. Many thanks to the band They're There for supplying the music for the podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. That's it, folks. Much love.